Hello everyone and welcome to the Snack Bar. It's been a long time, but we're back and we're gonna review Tomb Raider today. I am Jerry and this is...
Hi, I'm Jed. It's been a long while. I've missed doing this. It's fun.
The last time was The Last Jedi, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
And
which
then
one are
the
you
one
looking
before
forward?
that was Spider-Man Homecoming.
Which is lost.
Yeah, which is lost to
I'll
all
find
time.
it eventually. So which one are you more excited to do? Not Spider-Man. The Last Jedi or Tomb Raider?
I think I did have a lot more to talk about with The Last Jedi than I do with Tomb Raider, but this is the movie I've been anticipating for a long time as well.
Get into it because I guess there's too many news to cover now. I think we'll get back to the regular stuff because I'm done with school, so now I can watch movies more regularly. Yeah. Oh, but what do you think of the Oscars? I didn't see any of the Oscar films except for Get Out, but were you happy with Shape of Water winning?
Yeah, I was. I think The Shape of Water is really interesting. I've heard people say it was the safe choice, and it's wonderful and hilarious, and mostly wonderful that the safe choice is a movie in which a woman has sex with a fish monster. So
I hate that that's a thing, by the way. I'm sorry, I have to bring this up again. I have to bring up the order, of course I do. But
okay, let's deal with that.
Yeah, in the new game, I mock people for wanting to have sex with a male fish, right? Because there is a male fish that I think everyone just wants to have sex with because he's quite, he's like a bro and he's really nice to you. And I mocked them for it. And then so came along Shape of Water and I couldn't make fun of them anymore because that won the Oscars. That's why I don't like the film, but I've not seen it yet. I plan to see it soon.
It's a beautiful movie. I adore Guillermo del Toro. He's one of my favorite directors ever. So I'm so happy he won Best Director, even though I think that Christopher Nolan had an equal shot at it. I would maybe have given it to Christopher Nolan. With The Shape of Water, I think it's very non-literal. So it's very tempting to look at it as, it's bestiality. It's literally a woman and a fish monster. But I think it's a lot more allegorical. It's a story about outsiders finding solace in each other. The main character, Eliza, played by Sally Hawkins, she's mute. And then her neighbor, played by Richard Jenkins, is gay. And her co-worker and best friend, played by Octavia Spencer, is black. And the fishman is a fishman. So these are all social outcasts during the time the movie is set, the early 60s. And it's the villain is played by Michael Shannon, who is a scary villain as always. And he is a guy whom Guillermo del Toro, I think he's really correct when he says that if this movie were made in the 60s, that character, the military guy who captured the monster, would be the good guy. But instead, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. It sounds really cool. I heard, people who do love this film, they don't like that it's considered, this is the movie where where a woman fucks a fish. And, they kind of, I guess, misses the point of the film. I guess I know people are joking, but...
Yes, I'm joking.
Yeah, it does kind of suck.
It is reductive, but at the same time, I think that for a movie to have a shocking element like that, I'm sure there are people who watch it just out of curiosity, just to see how that works, and then they don't realize how beautiful and how immersive the surrounding movie is. So that serves its purpose as well. I think Guillermo del Toro knows this. I think he knows the shock value. And it's a beautiful performance from Doug Jones, who is one of those underrated performers because you don't really see his face.
I do want to watch this film. I hope it's still in theaters at a time where I can watch it. Instead, I went to watch Tomb Raider, and I haven't seen Black Panther yet.
Because it came out in the US earlier, it's on Blu-ray already. It's already on like iTunes, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd rather see it on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna see Dunkirk on a small screen because it's out on iTunes and I'm gonna rent it and I'm gonna watch it. I guess it helps that it's on small screen too, so I wouldn't feel as scared because I hate war films.
It's a very intense war movie, but I think that it's very unlike a lot of other war movies because I think that it's really focused on putting the audience in the moment rather than explaining the surrounding thing. Like Christopher Nolan said, he did not want that typical scene where you have generals in suits standing over a board pushing little wooden ships with sticks. So
Yeah.
this is not that kind of a movie.
You know, sometimes I always forget what a great director Christopher Nolan is, because he's really well known for Batman, and honestly, that's when I first saw his films. But
Yeah, me
he
too.
does all these big blockbuster films, but the difference between him and a lot of blockbuster directors, I feel, is that he really knows how to tell a story. It's not just a spectacle, it's both a spectacle and it's really a lot about character study and human emotions. And yeah, I really forget sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of technical mastery, and yet his films aren't cold. They aren't
Yeah.
clinical. You still are able to connect to them, and that's a very rare quality in a director, especially a director of commercial films. So I do get angry whenever people say he's overrated, because they feel like that's a very cynical hipster thing to jump on.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about the Oscars?
The Oscars,
Any surprises, snubs?
any surprises? I did not expect Get Out to win Best Original Screenplay. I'm very happy that it did. I thought that
Yeah,
it
me
gave
too.
Best Original Screenplay to Three Billboards or Lady Bird. So I'm very happy Jordan Peele got that. And I think that I'm honestly quite annoyed when people say that it's a racist conspiracy that Get Out didn't win Best Picture. I don't think that's true at all.
Racist conspiracy against who?
Against
Because a
Jordan
Mexican
Peele.
guy won.
Yes, so that doesn't make sense to me. And I think that this year it does reflect a much younger, much more diverse voting base. Because the rules for Academy membership are, I think you have to have been at least nominated,
Yeah.
and then the people within the category vote for that category. So sound people are voting for sound people, makeup people are voting for makeup people. So I'm not
Oh,
very sure
okay.
how exactly that works, but it means the people who are voting know something about what they're talking about. So I understand when people say that the Oscars are not when people sort of downplay the Oscars or poo-poo the Oscars, and people say, look at all the animated film nominees, they don't know what you're talking about. I understand where that's coming from, but I don't think that the Oscars are as unreliable a yardstick for good movies as, say, the Grammys are for good music.
Oh, I thought you meant like People's Choice Awards.
I think, like, with the People's Choice Awards, there has never really been prestige attached to it,
Yeah.
but there is prestige attached to the Oscars. I think that the prestige has been tarnished over the years, and you do hear people saying in retrospect, why did Crash win Best Picture? Things like that. And the Oscars doesn't get it right all the time. But I think
Yeah.
it gets it right enough. And I still buy into the hype. I still like the prestige, and I like the idea of the Oscars as something to look forward to. I don't think that it's completely meaningless, and I think it's a bit overly cynical to view that and to view awards shows in general that way.
Speaking of which, have you seen or have you heard of the Lonely Island's deleted Oscar song about blockbuster films?
No.
Oh, you should. It's so good. I think you would love it.
So is this something that they did that was supposed to be part of telecast, or?
Yes, it is. It was supposed to be that, but I think it was too expensive.
Okay.
So they couldn't go through with it. And when
So
you
it
do hear the
exists in
song, you understand why.
It exists in audio, but they couldn't get together the resources to film the video for it.
It's in slideshow form, and honestly, I think the slideshow is so good. Like, they should have just shown the slideshow and just had the voiceover of the actors who were supposed to sing the song. There is one part where they mention all four Chris's, and I wish that happened. It's
So that you
good.
could have like Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans,
Chris
Chris
Pine.
Pine, right, out on stage.
Yep,
Yeah.
I really think you should watch it after this.
I'll go look for it. Yeah. Do you want me
Yeah.
to talk about the Chris Pine thing I saw recently?
What Chris Pine thing?
A Wrinkle in
Wrinkle
Time.
in Time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, so this is a movie which has been very divisive among critics, and I totally see why. I'm on the side of slightly liking it, but this movie has so many problems. First, what it gets right. I actually really like its message. A little bit preachy, but I like that it talks about body image issues. It talks about a young biracial girl. She's the protagonist, and she's very insecure. She has a lot of hang-ups about how she looks. I think that that's an important thing for a big movie, a Disney movie, to address. But I think it's very obvious that the director, Ava DuVernay, she does not have experience in this genre. She does not have experience working with visual effects. She does not have experience doing fantasy adventure. So all the world building stuff doesn't work. All the world building stuff just feels kind of clumsily executed, not very well realized, and you are never fully transported into the world that the film is trying to make.
So, what do you mean by she doesn't have, like, she doesn't build the world well enough?
Yeah, I
Like,
think
is
that
it visually boring? Is it too much? Is she trying too much at once?
it's the world is poorly defined, and part of why it's poorly defined, paradoxically enough, is because there's a lot of exposition, because a lot of time is spent trying to explain to you what's going on. So I think that rather than conveying the mechanics through visuals, through movement, through storytelling, they try to do that, but much more of it is done by the three Mrs. W's played by Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, and Mindy Kaling, them sort of
Yeah.
talking. And especially Mindy Kaling, I think she got very short shrift in this movie because her character, there's a kind of a gimmick where she can only talk in quotes. So she'll say, blah, 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 Maya Angelou, or blah, 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 Buddha, blah, 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 Winston Churchill. So she cannot talk in her own words. She can only talk in historical quotes or song lyrics or things. And I thought that was a really weird choice to make. I don't know whether it's like that in the book. I can't imagine it is. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, and at the same time, the visual effects are, I think, not polished, kind of mediocre visual effects. There's a
Yeah.
sequence where they fly around on the best way to describe it is a cabbage manta ray woman. It's a woman who looks like a cabbage, but her body is like a thin sheet, like a wing, like a manta ray, and the kids are on the back of this creature, and it is so strange. It just doesn't feel like it's there. A lot of it was filmed in New Zealand, but all the environments feel very synthetic.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies where you feel like if you pan the camera a little bit left, you will see scaffolding. So ideally, if you're in a fantasy film, if you're in something like a Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Narnia, you want to feel like the whole world is the whole world, and that never really comes into effect in A Wrinkle in Time. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's pretty hard to describe, honestly.
Yeah, but I think you did quite a good job.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's quite sad. I was really looking forward to this film because to be honest, I've only seen one of her films, and that's Selma, and I really love Selma. So I was looking forward to this, but I guess I have to wait for it to come on iTunes or Netflix or something.
I think that the ways in which it doesn't really work are also what make it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to what we have coming up. We have Pacific Rim 2, this time no Guillermo del Toro, for which I'm
sucks.
concerned.
Yeah.
And then we have Ready Player One shortly after that, which early reviews are very enthusiastic about.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how to say this, but it kind of got the same praise as the books did. It's like, oh, this is a nerd. This is for nerds, It's a book written by a nerd for nerds, and I just want a good story, and it doesn't have a good story. So I'm not sure whether this film itself has a good story, because all the reviews I've been reading has been, oh, it just nostalgia, it's just a nostalgia bomb, and it's the one thing that I don't like about Ready Player One. They don't use nostalgia for storytelling. They use it as
Look,
I don't
here's
know
the
what
thing
they
you
use it
like.
for.
Yeah, look, here's the thing you like. I understand that, and I'm speaking as someone who's never read the book, and you have read the book. I think one of the main complaints about the book that another one of my friends has told me about is that it's just like lists of things that people like, and listed not very well. So I think that where the film can overcome that is that it is a visual medium, and it
Yeah.
is Spielberg. So I'm pinning my hopes on Spielberg as a visual storyteller, which he is a good visual storyteller. So does it have a compelling narrative at the heart of it? I don't really know.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
He's
Yeah,
just
but
trying to win over a girl or something. I don't know. I read it halfway.
I'm interested to see how it works, and it's also interesting that someone who is 70 plus years old, like Spielberg, is making this sort of teen-aimed movie. So I'm interested to see how much of the feel he gets. But he is a kid at heart. He does love video games. And at one point of time, they were tossing around Christopher Nolan's name for this, and I don't think he'd be as good a fit. Because I don't really look at Christopher Nolan as a fun director. And this needs someone who's fun. And I miss fun mode Spielberg. Like, okay, The Post is fine. Good movie. Didn't personally move me.
Did you like Adventures of Tintin?
I was okay with Tintin. I think I didn't really like it at the time because I was comparing it to the animated series, which I had kind of a nostalgic attachment to. When I was growing up, I watched a lot of the Tintin cartoon. And I actually think I did that before I read the comics. And the Tintin cartoons are very faithful to the comics. They are basically just like almost frame for frame. So
you see, I that was the last Steven Spielberg film that I really, really liked.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
I think it's also because I didn't like the cartoons. So I was quite surprised that I liked the films.
Okay, yeah, I think that it's kind of overlooked for its achievements. The visual invention in telling it, that's a lot of fun, and I think the casting is really good. Jamie Bell was great. Andy Serkis is a brilliant Haddock, and Daniel Craig played Rackham. Yeah, so that's something which people kind of forget. Daniel Craig was in that movie. Nick Frost and Simon Pegg as Thompson, good casting. So that's an interesting movie, but not one that I adore.
Oh, I see. I've only seen it once, and I remember liking it a lot. So, I don't know how it holds up now. All right, let's go on to I have no segue for this. Nick Frost. Speaking of Nick Frost, I guess.
That's a better segue than I would have come up with. Yeah, Nick Frost shows up in the movie which you're talking about today, Tomb Raider. So yeah, I remember last year you were telling me that you wanted to talk about Tomb Raider. You wanted to talk about video game movies in general.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. I think there's going to be a next video game movie coming out soon. I don't know which one. Is it Mario? Mario's the next one.
Is it Detective Pikachu?
Oh, Detective Pikachu. No, but Detective Pikachu, I think it's I guess Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, it's technically based on the video game.
I'm so looking forward to Detective Pikachu, by the way. It sounds so silly. I love it. I'm gonna get the game.
And I don't know whether or not they are moving forward on that Rainbow Six thing, which they keep on talking about.
I don't think so. I've heard nothing about it. What's the next video game movie that's coming out?
We'll Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I have a very sentimental attachment to the first Tomb Raider movie, the 2001 Angelina Jolie.
Oh, wait, I should have said Daniel Craig. Okay, never mind.
That's both segues. Yeah, that's interesting because she swaps Daniel Craig for Daniel Wu in this one. So her male sidekick is just a different guy named Daniel, which is kind of like
Asian.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about the plot of the movie?
Yeah, sure. Go on. What's the plot of the movie, Chet?
Yes, Jerry. So Tomb Raider is based on the game of the same name, which was released in 2013. So that game is the second reboot within the Tomb Raider series. So in this movie, Lara Croft is played by Alicia Vikander. She's a 21-year-old heiress. Her father has disappeared many, many years ago, and she could inherit a fortune, but she refuses to acknowledge and make it official that he's dead. So she's living by herself in a little apartment in London. She's trying to make ends meet as a bicycle courier. She takes boxing lessons. So she's pretty much living as a regular person would, even though she could be living in this great grand mansion that she lived in as a child. One day, she comes across certain clues left behind by her father, which lead her to his final destination, which is the mythical island Yamatai, hidden uncharted island off of Japan. So she tracks down Lu Ren, ship captain, played by Daniel Wu, and his dad was the guy who took Lara's dad to the island. So, okay, we're off to the island, shipwreck, which is how the game begins, and then they wash up ashore, and she encounters Matthias Vogel, played by Walton Goggins. So he is this kind of mercenary dude who is leading a mysterious paramilitary organization, and they have been tasked by the secret society Trinity to find the tomb of Queen Himiko. So now, Walton Goggins' Matthias Vogel has Lara, the daughter of Lord Richard Croft, and so he thinks that she will lead them to the tomb.
Yes. So I know how you feel about this.
Yeah,
And
did you read the review?
yeah, I read the review.
Thank you.
I probably shouldn't have because I should have formed my own opinion first, but I read it because I was just so curious.
No,
Um,
I'm glad you did.
yeah, so how did you feel about it?
Yeah, so I had very high expectations of this movie, but at the same
Really?
time, I knew that it. What?
You
Sorry?
really had high expectations for this film?
I think expectations is the wrong word. Like, I was looking forward to it a lot. I had high
Okay.
anticipation for this movie. And I was expecting it to be okay, to be an okay adventure movie. And it is. It is an okay adventure movie. It's very, very, very straightforward. It's very
Mm-hmm.
linear, very A to B to C to D. And I guess the flip side of this is that it's a very coherent story, very easy story to follow, which we haven't had in a lot of video game movies before. So
Yes.
that's the pro, but the con is that it's overly simplistic. It takes out quite a bit of what makes the game interesting. And I'm not a gamer, but I've played several of the Tomb Raider games, including this one. And we'll go into it in spoilers where exactly it differs.
Sorry, and I would just like say I played all the Uncharted games and wow, okay, now go on. That's all I have to say for now. Wow, about something that happened in this film that ripped off from Uncharted, and I want to know whether that happens in the game because I've never played a Tomb Raider game. But
Okay.
yeah, continue.
Yeah, I think that Uncharted is kind of dude Tomb Raider, and Tomb Raider is Lady Indiana Jones, so it's all part of the same lineage. But we'll see about that sequence later. I'm very curious, actually. Yeah, so this movie, it's fine. I think that it's not anything too special, and there are certain things which I felt let down knowing the source material, but I'm one of those people who believes that if you're reviewing a movie or looking at a movie, you shouldn't be obsessed with comparing it to what it's based on. So I'm kind of hypocritical in that regard. I will say that if you have never played the game and you go into this just knowing of Lara Croft from the Angelina Jolie movies, it's very different. It's very different from the Angelina Jolie movies. It's different in a good way. I think it works in being a little bit more grounded. I wouldn't say realistic, but it does treat Lara as more of a character. It gives the character a little bit more development. There's some things about her which are very cheesy, and her relationship to her dad, like all the flashbacks of her dad, that's very cheesy and very similar to the Angelina Jolie movie. But the best thing of this is Alicia Vikander. Alicia Vikander works so well in this role. I really, really like her as Lara.
Yeah. So for me, this film I really enjoyed it. Like I had a lot of fun with this film. It's
I'm
so
glad you did.
campy.
I'm so happy you did.
Yeah, I know. It's fun, guys. Like we don't have a lot of adventure films nowadays, like straight up adventure films.
Yes, I was saying the same thing last year. Just straight adventure, just people running through jungles and fighting
And
bad
solving
guys and
puzzles.
yeah, navigating traps. So that those parts of the movie really hyped me up. When she's in the tomb, when she's dodging, things falling from the ceiling, that's
When
when
you
it
hear the
really
Mario
felt
music playing, yeah, exactly.
right. That's when it
So
felt to
it,
me like Tomb Raider. Yeah.
yeah. So I really enjoyed this film a lot. You said that the father daughter thing was cheesy. I really enjoyed that because I'm a sucker for father child things.
Oh, I'm glad it worked for you because I don't. I'm sure there are people for whom it will work, but it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, you can see what they were going at with the parallels. What a father would do for their daughter.
Mm-hmm.
With him and the villain. Yeah. So I really enjoyed that part. I thought that added a lot of heart to the story. About how Lara just wants to find her dad,
Yeah.
and that gives her a lot of humanity because the problem I have with Lara Croft and a lot of these and even Nathan Drake is that they are a little bit too Mary Sue. They can't get hurt physically and they're always getting away with things when they shouldn't have gotten away with that in the first place. And I think it's her father that really grounds her as a human being, and it helps me relate to her. And
Yeah.
you see
So
her get hurt, and
like
yeah,
sorry, that relationship helps define her for you.
yeah, not define her, but it gives the story heart.
It shapes
Because
it in, right?
yeah.
Okay,
And
cool.
and what I like about this is, she still needs help because this is her first outing, and there are people there to always help her out. And obviously, in the game, I've only played it I think about halfway through, where she's always on her own.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think this film, realistically, there's no way someone can survive. I guess they can, but you can barely do that. So
No,
it's
that's
nice
hard,
that
yeah.
she has help from other people like Daniel Wu
Mm-hmm.
to help her find whatever her father, or to get through the tomb or whatever stuff that they had to do.
And yeah,
And
sorry, go ahead.
listen, the story is whatever, who cares? But at least it's concise. At least it makes sense. It's not deep, but at least I can follow it through. Unlike something like Warcraft, where I was kind of confused.
Or Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is such a jumble of a story.
I have not seen Assassin's Creed because I heard very terrible things about it. But
Yeah,
we have
I would like you to watch it as an experiment for you to see what I thought would be the savior of the genre.
I watched the Mario Brothers movie for the first time last year because I thought we were going to do the video game thing, and I sort of enjoyed it because of how terrible it was.
It's so weird. It's so strange, and I think it works because it's so strange. Because because it's just so bizarre. It's like, why are you making all of these choices? Where do they come from? Why is it set in this place? Why do they look
And
like
why
that?
Mario? Why Mario? Out of all things, why Mario? Okay, so yeah, it's kind of weird. So hopefully Assassin's Creed is weird, entertaining, and not weird boring. But I have a feeling it's weird boring. But anyway, Tomb Raider, I liked it. I honestly want to recommend this film because I want to support female action leads. I'm sorry I have to go that way, but I want to support female action
Don't
leads.
apologize for it at all. And I appreciate the irony of me interrupting you to emphasize this point, but no need to apologize. I am totally with you on this. Movies like this, there should be more. It shouldn't be a rarity. There's no reason why studios should see it as a risk. Someone like Alicia Vikander more than can carry a movie like this. I am
And
so
she's
in
amazing.
awe. I'm so in awe of her physicality, of her training, of the dedication that she went to, how she's an Oscar winner, and there's never 1 second where you feel her thinking the role is beneath her. That just
And
because
no,
it's
it's
based
not
on
just
like
that. It's like you watch her and you don't think that she's an Oscar winner because
Yeah.
she acts so. She's just. I don't know. I always felt like there was a difference between an Oscar caliber actor and an action star. And to me, she's just like you forget that she's the girl from the Danish Girl or Ex Machina.
Yes,
She
that
is
it's
this.
she's able
character.
to undergo like a transformation, and she's also very endearing. She's very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, she's very, very likable. And one major difference that I can say in the non-spoiler section between the game and the movie is that in the game, Lara's a lot more sheltered, Lara's a lot more afraid, a lot more scared. And in this movie, Lara is already putting herself out there before she's gone on the adventure. We spend quite a bit of time seeing what her everyday life is like, and she's already taking risks. She's already very athletic. So I felt that while that part of the movie, I think people who know the game feel that it's slow. I felt that it was like, come on, get to
Character
the part.
development.
Yeah, get to what we know already. I liked it because she's likable.
Yeah.
So when you spend time with her, you feel like, cool, Yeah, this is a movie when I watched it the first time, I was like, it's not brilliant, it's missing that extra sprinkle of magic dust, but I like it and I want to watch it again.
I feel like it's
yeah.
just a very good stepping stone for adventure films.
Yeah,
Because
it's an
I want adventure
intermediate
films
step.
to come back because I want fun films that, don't really rely on huge budget. Is this huge budget? No, right?
No, this is like a mid-budget thing.
Yeah, I just want a fun romp. I don't want superheroes. I guess this is a video game, and once video game movies keep coming out, I guess we'll get bored of it. But I don't want just superhero films or Star Wars to be the only blockbuster films. I want a good, adventure film where you go places and then you discover things and you're trying to solve this mystery that's happening.
Yeah,
That kind of stuff.
I really enjoyed the first National Treasure movie.
Okay.
And I felt like something like that was, kind of silly and fun. And to a certain extent, the Dan Brown, Tom Hanks, Robert Langdon
Angel
movies are
and
that.
Demons?
Sorry?
Like
Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code, and recently Inferno. But those are more mystery than adventure. Like, I would love people to do more stuff like Raiders of the Lost Ark. And the funny thing is that this genre is very popular in China, but all of the Chinese archaeology adventure movies that I've watched are awful.
Yeah.
They're all really, really bad, and it's very strange because I feel like it's actually harder to make a movie like that complicated. It's easy to make a movie like that easy. It's easy to make a MacGuffin Quest movie straightforward. That's what Tomb Raider does. Straightforward MacGuffin quest movie. We're looking for the thing. Here's how we find the thing. There are obstacles in the way. But the Chinese movies that do that, things like Time Raider,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the Mojin Legend of the Lost, whatever. They're just like so many subplots and so much nonsense that I don't care about. So
Yeah.
yeah, and also
I
like very very unconvincing leads, like boy band people being dressing up as Indiana Jones. It just does not work.
I don't know. I do like this film. Like, I do think it's a good film. Like, generally, I think it's a good film. It is a good action film. It is a good adventure film. The characters are thin, sure, but whatever. It's more. I guess I know you don't like the Maze Runner films, but it
I'm
kind of
okay
reminds
with
me of the
them.
second. I don't I really like the second Maze Runner films where it's
Okay.
this huge spectacle and there are likable characters in it, and I enjoyed going through the adventure with them, and I enjoyed going through this adventure with Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft. Oh yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed this film. I would recommend it to people if they want to have a fun time and if they haven't seen Black Panther yet. I haven't seen Black Panther yet,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna watch that next week.
Oh, that's fun. I think you'll like it. I hope you like it. There's a lot to talk about in Black Panther as well. But yeah, the thing about Tomb Raider is that I felt that after watching it, there wasn't a huge amount to discuss, but we are going to spend a lot of time on it anyway, so going to contradict myself. But yeah, I'm so happy you liked it. I'm so happy you enjoyed it. And it is a milestone because I think that at this point of time, it is the highest rated video game movie on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a neat 50%.
No, I think Angry Birds is higher.
No, it's not higher than Angry Birds.
What?
I just
Oh,
checked. I just checked.
wait, how much did Angry Birds get?
Angry Birds is in the low 40s or
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that was a good film. Okay, fine, whatever.
I liked Angry Birds as well, yeah, but I liked it okay. I like this more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, this is currently the highest rated video game movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
And it's not a bad film. It's not a bad film. It's an okay film, which is a masterpiece when you talk about video game movies. Because
Yeah,
it knows what it is and it has fun with it.
I think the thing to bear in mind is that video games as a medium are so much younger than novels, than comic books, than TV shows, than other source material for films. So I think
But
that
I think we've already seen this so many times where the best video game films are films not about video games. Sorry, the best video game films are not adapted from video games but are about video games. So you
sorry,
see
yeah,
stuff
I was a
like
little bit confused by that, but that makes sense. Yeah, something like Wreck-It Ralph.
Scott Pilgrim, Wreck-It Ralph,
Yeah,
Jumanji.
games that borrow the vocabulary. I mean, movies that borrow the vocabulary of video games rather than taking video games as source material. I totally get what you mean. Something like Tron as well.
Yeah, because you see, like, okay, I think we're getting too. I'm getting too far ahead because I still want to do the video game movie thing. But from what I've seen, it's that video game stories are either shit or good. But the good ones require time to build up. And
Yeah.
you might as well just make that a TV series. But what's the
Yeah.
point of making that a TV series if the game can already tell its own story? Because it's taking its own time to tell the story. But the shit stories are the ones that, when they're adapted, it's like you have nothing to go off on. So
Yeah.
to me, I don't know whether this will work because this is why I thought Assassin's Creed would work, because they weren't adapting it from any storyline.
Me
They
too.
were doing their
Me
own
too.
thing.
Yeah, they were kind of like they were saying this is a story that takes place within the world of the games, but it's not a straight adaptation of any of the games. So I thought, oh, good idea. Then you can make it very straightforward. You don't have to fill in all of the blanks. But that actually, funnily enough, made it even more convoluted. So
Yeah.
that was another level of disappointment for that film to me. But there were a lot of things I did like about the look of the movie, about the tone of some of the action sequences, and some of the mechanics some of the choreography of the action. But it's just that the story was told like I didn't have any idea what it was about.
And I'm only judging Tomb Raider as a video game adaptation based on Uncharted because they're more or less the same. But I think Uncharted has more grounded stuff than Tomb Raider does. I'm not sure, but I know Tomb Raider has this stuff.
I'm inclined to agree. Yeah, I think that the Tomb Raider series has always had very much of a supernatural element. She's fighting
Yeah.
dragons and mummies and giant spiders and Atlantean goddesses, and she's running around with pieces of King Arthur's sword and Mjolnir and artifacts from Atlantis and things like that. So I think that in Uncharted, he's more like a soldier of fortune. He's more like a mercenary dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that's less outlandish, I think.
yeah, so based on what I know from Uncharted, I think that Tomb Raider is a good adaptation in that they take what I'm not sure if this is true, but if this was an Uncharted game, they take what is fun about the game, which is the puzzles, the running away from dangerous things, the climbing up planes as they're falling down,
Yeah.
and then going through things, and that's the fun part of it.
Uh-huh.
Of course, this is different because you're not playing it, so the adrenaline isn't as much there as it is when you're playing a game. But
Yeah, the language is slightly different, and
Yeah.
that's really interesting for me to get into. I always am very fascinated by the different kind of esoteric vocabulary that different mediums use. Why is a book different from a comic book? Why is a comic book different from a TV show? Why is a TV show different from a movie? Why is a movie different from a video game?
did you like the video game tropes that they had in Tomb Raider?
Yeah, I think we'll get into, in spoilers, we'll get into how closely it follows the story from not only the story, but the look and the sequences from the game. I totally agree with you. The parts of the movie that I liked the most were the parts when she was doing stuff that she does in the game. When she was escaping the crumbling wreckage of the plane. When she was solving the puzzles. When the floors falling out from under her. Stuff are falling from the ceiling. Spikes. Tombs. Traps. Those are stuff I love. And I think that that's always really, really important, is you need to get to the bits that people remember and the bits that capture the imagination. That's why they spend a little bit too much time in the prologue. That's
Okay, well,
yeah.
I really like the prologue because it builds up character for me.
I think that it's people who are not familiar with the game would enjoy the prologue because they would feel, because the game begins with the shipwreck and the movie does not. So if you don't have that point of reference, it totally doesn't bother you. And actually, to be honest, I think there are lots of parts in the prologue that I like, that I saw the choices they were going to make read the character of Lara, how they were going to define her differently than she's defined the game, and how Alicia Vikander was going to play her, and how that would inform what we know of her once she gets on the island. So I appreciate the function of that. It's just that knowing the game begins in a shipwreck, I wanted to get there a bit faster.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's
Is
go
that
on to
fair?
spoilers.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, by the way, do you recommend this film?
Yes, I recommend this movie. I think I'm going to echo exactly what you said. It's an okay adventure. Don't expect anything more than that. But I'm also going to repeat what I said, which is I feel like it's missing that sprinkle of magic dust. I feel like there is a tiny little bit of extra something undefinable, like an X factor, which could have pushed it over the top and made it awesome. So as it stands,
what is your favorite adventure film? Which
Indiana Jones and the Last
more
Crusade.
Specifically. Oh, Last Crusade. Okay.
The third one, the one with the dad, because I felt that I liked the relationship between him and the dad. It was kind of unconventional. It was a bit of a buddy cop dynamic.
Yeah.
I thought the setting was great. The action sequences are so much fun. The chase with the plane is hilarious. A lot of comedy woven into the action. The MacGuffin, the Holy Grail, that is a fantastic MacGuffin. Very memorable images, fun side characters. It feels a lot like the first movie. And the second movie felt very little like the first movie. So it kind of was like a back to basics approach with the addition of Sean Connery as his dad. So I love Last Crusade. Last Crusade is my favorite movie of all time, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not a Star Wars film, I see.
Yeah, Last Crusade is my favorite movie ever.
Okay, so let's go into spoilers now.
Yep.
Before we go on to the differences between the games and the movie, I just want to say that the ending, the plot twist of it is that she's actually a good person who carries a virus that turns people into zombies or whatever. I get zombies, right? Did they become zombies? They got infected and they sort of lost control of their body.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from Uncharted.
Oh.
Was that from the games?
No.
Yeah, that was from Uncharted. It was amazing and I loved it. It was
Which
such a
which
video
game is it?
trope. Drake's Fortune. It's when I think they were trying to look for a statue and they found out that the statue made them into zombies.
Oh, okay.
And it is amazing, and I love that part so much. It is so stupid, but I loved it.
Yeah, so that moment in the movie is actually the big divergent point. Because the game is supernatural. It does have supernatural elements. It ends with her fighting a giant zombie samurai. And the final boss of Tomb Raider, her fighting that, I think it's called an Oni, that big zombie samurai which comes back to life. That's when she first uses dual pistols.
Yeah.
That's kind of the defining moment when she picks up the other gun on the floor, you unlock an achievement. So that, I think, was a lot cooler than her going to the pawn shop owned by Nick Frost to say, I will take 2 USP marks. But yeah, I honestly was disappointed that the movie did not embrace the supernatural aspect of the story, but I understood why they didn't. I think they felt that it would have made things too convoluted, and it would have
to be honest.
and they would have to spend more time expositing the supernatural stuff, and they'd already spent some time expositing the historical stuff. So the misdirect was that instead of being like this witch queen, she is a carrier of a virus, and that's been kind of mythologized into her having supernatural powers. So, yeah. In the game, Lara is an archaeology student at UCL, University College of London, and she is going on a school trip, on an expedition. So there are lots of people on the boat. Some of her classmates, I think, some research assistants. The captain is an old, like, gruff captain guy, generic guy, compared to Daniel Wu. And they shipwreck, and one of her classmates is named Sam Nishimura. She's a Japanese girl. So she is kidnapped by the cult leader, Father Matthias, the leader of the Solari cult, to be sacrificed to Queen Himiko. So the objective of the game is rescue Sam.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so that's a big difference.
I remember nothing from that game.
That's where they diverge. And this is interesting because I feel like, would that have worked? Yeah, I think so. But it would have taken a lot more skill to do that. It would have been a lot harder to sort of spin that and to not lose the audience. So I can see why they went where they went. And I actually like the idea of amalgamating all of the supporting characters into one Daniel Wu. Mm-hmm. He's kind of like all of them combined. All the other people on the boat. And Daniel Wu, he's very charismatic. He's very good looking. And I think he's a great fit for this kind of a role. And one of my favorite things about this movie is they did not force a romance.
Yeah.
And they never made a big deal out of it. It's just like, yeah, it's so what? It's fine. And I was very, very happy with that because I feel that we have never really seen that in an adventure movie starring a woman, because we have seen so few adventure movies starring women.
Oh, none.
Yeah, I mean, the Angelina Jolie ones, they made a very big deal out of the male leads in both movies. They had Daniel Craig in the first one and Gerard Butler in the second one, and there was very much like a romantic subplot, and they served almost exactly the same purpose in the plot. Gerard Butler serves almost exactly the same purpose in the plot that Daniel Craig did. So in this one, Daniel Wu serves a slightly different purpose in the plot. And Daniel Wu is very attractive, and there's I would think the obvious thing would be to set up a love story between the two of them, but it would have been so stupid. So I'm very happy they didn't do that. Would you have minded, honestly?
Well, it didn't cross my mind that they would be romantically paired, because she's too busy worrying about her father to form a romance with anyone, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it didn't occur to me that there would be a romance forming.
Yeah, I
think she's a little bit too young for him.
Maybe
in the story.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that is just so commonplace that we just expect a movie like this to shoehorn something like that in, and instead they emphasize the relationship between her and her father instead. And I'm glad that you liked that. There were parts where I felt it was a little bit cheesy, but I think the flashbacks, especially like the archery scene, some of the dialogue is very contrived. And the whole thing of, okay, we have this special symbol that we share. We have this thing where we put our two fingers to our mouths, and so a lot of that felt like very kind of obvious.
Oh, I
Like,
love them.
I
I
know.
really love it when that happened.
I'm glad
Like
you
the
like
part
them.
where he was about to die or something,
Yeah.
and then they did that thing, and she does it back to him, and I don't think she's ever done that before. I was like, oh, that's pretty
Yeah. I think also the other thing is that it's such a common subplot, like finishing the parents' adventure or finishing the parents' quest. I mean, it's such a common motivation, and it's
yeah,
almost exactly the same motivation as in the Angelina Jolie movie.
yeah.
Go and look for that. And I think that's always been a driving point of the Tomb Raider franchise. And
Which is,
but
I like it.
yeah, I don't hate it either. It's just that sorry, in the games, my favorite game is Legend. I love Legend like crazy, and Legend is interesting in that it gives her mother an important role in the
I
story.
see.
Yeah, so I feel like it would be fun to see something like that with Emilia Croft. But in this movie, it almost sounds like the mother died before she was, before she could remember her. It almost sounds like she has no memory of the mother.
Yeah.
So,
Well, her mother could just be missing for all we know.
and
As
another
in,
interesting thing about her mother's date of death in the movie 1996, the year the first game came out.
yeah.
So there's a fun little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there.
and okay, and another thing that kind of disappointed me about this movie in comparison to the game was the villain. Because, like, I love Walton Goggins, super underrated actor, a lot of energy, a lot of charisma, crazy scary guy, scary teeth, scary forehead. But in the game, Matthias is a cult leader, so he is legitimately frightening and freaky. And in this movie,
I liked him.
I'm
Because
glad you
he
did.
does. He does it. It's the reason why I like that Avengers villain. I forgot the one that you hate.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Zemo, Baron Zemo.
Yeah. I like that he is given a reason to do the things that he did, but he's never justified for his actions.
Yeah, I think that like the sort of like he's following orders from on high thing.
Yeah, because he wants to see his daughters, and I think that was a really nice parallel between what a father would do for their daughter. So
Yeah, that was
he's willing to enslave people and kill whoever disobeys him and whoever's too weak to help him out.
a way to
And-
humanize him. Yeah,
Yeah,
And
well,
I
not
actually-
humanize him. There was
I-
nothing humane about him murdering that guy.
I know. I
But-
think kind of like to give him a human attribute
Yeah,
is what I meant. Yeah, it's because he is very ruthless. He is very scary. He will just like dispatch of his own dudes when he doesn't need them. And at the same time, the thing about this movie is that one of the things that frustrated me a little bit is we didn't really get an establishment of the threat of Trinity, and I think this was done on purpose, is they wanted to build it up for a sequel. But they could sort of hold it over our heads that there's this organization which is nefarious and shadowy and there's stuff.
yeah,
But it's not defined, it's left ambiguous, and while that helps to build the mystery, it also makes it seem like what are we supposed to be afraid of, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of frustrating for me, the way the movie handled Trinity. If I'm not wrong, Trinity is only really referred to or figures very heavily in the plot of the second game. In Rise of the Tomb Raider, the villain is Anna Miller, the boardroom lady.
Mm-hmm.
So she is the villain in the second game, and the twist is revealed in the second game. She doesn't even appear in the first game. So they move some elements from the second game to the first movie to set up what could be a second movie, which works, I think. I just really, really hope this has a sequel. I want to see more. I love Alicia Vikander. I want a series. I want more than two.
Yeah, I want a sequel too. I think that this movie more or less deserves it because it is a. You can see there's a lot of effort and there's a lot of heart put into this film, and it doesn't feel like just a cash grab. It doesn't feel like, oh, because it's popular, that's why we're doing this. No, there's heart. There's heart in this film, and I want it to do well. For me, man, I don't know. I can't fault this film too much because I had a really fun time.
I'm glad you
Because
did.
a lot of problems that you had seem to be stemmed from you playing the game, so you do have a previous attachment to Lara Croft.
That's right.
And I didn't really enjoy the reboot that much. I stopped playing halfway because I swear I was going to get a heart attack anytime I had to do a quick time event.
Yeah. It's
So-
very, very intense. It's an intense
Yeah.
game.
So
It's
I
kind
just-
of there are points in the game where it's like, whoa, dial it back. You don't have to take it so seriously.
yeah.
yeah.
So I just stopped playing that. So I came into this film expecting a fun adventure, and that's exactly what I got. I love the video game tropes inside it, like the part where she had to solve the huge big puzzle, the
Yeah,
doorway.
that made
That
me
was
so
fun.
happy. The stupid color puzzle with the lights. I was like,
Yes.
yeah, more of
You know
that.
what? Can I
That
can
made-
I can I just say if that puzzle appeared in the game where you are supposed to put two colors together to form green, I would have said that is good game design and that is a really smart puzzle.
Yeah, because
That's all I
you
can
wouldn't
say
think to
about
do
that
that. Especially
Exactly.
with the time pressure of the floor falling out underneath you.
Yeah.
I
And
love
like,
everyone going like, Lara, there's no more floor.
it's great. Like I know a lot of people are going to complain about the video game tropes and how there are so many parts where it feels like they're only doing this because it's like a video game. But to be fair, those video games are inspired by Indiana Jones. You know?
Yeah. And I think like it's such a defining part of the genre, solving the puzzles, avoiding the traps, running away from things before they collapse. That is
Yeah.
this whole adventure platforming genre with a little bit of combat. So
Yeah.
just like you have to represent that in the movie somehow. So I think that sorry,
I
go ahead.
love those parts. I do love those parts where
Yeah,
it
me
does
too.
feel like Indiana Jones and it does feel like a video game because it's not fair that comic book films get to do comic book things nowadays
And are
video
praised
game
for
movies
it.
can't.
Yeah, and the comic book movies are praised when they borrow from the comic books. Are praised when the color scheme is more like the comic books. So yeah, I think
Not
that
fair, Jack.
the
It's not
the
fair.
the challenge is to present the mechanics of a video game in a way that engages the audience because the audience doesn't have a direct interaction with the medium the way they do in the video game.
You know
So-
what? While I loved this part in Warcraft, even I thought that it was a little bit too much. Where I think this is a little bit crossing the line, where they had an overhead shot in the Warcraft movies to represent the games. You know, because Warcraft is you see it through like a 3/4 top view.
Yeah.
Do you remember that scene in Warcraft where they had to put in that part where it's an overhead shot of everyone fighting?
It's like both armies against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that you also saw something like that in Lord of the Rings.
Did you?
During the Helm's
don't
Deep
know.
battle.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't think it
that
was
movie's
like
very long.
I don't think it was really a top-down view the way that it is in Warcraft. Like in Warcraft, it's a straight like helicopter bird's eye view.
Oh no, trust me, it was.
As in, no, I mean in Lord of the Rings, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But in Lord of the Rings, it was a similar sort of huge showing the army on this side and showing the army on that side before they clash, kind of a setup. I just don't remember whether it used the same angles.
So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like a terrible thing. Like it's not the only fault this movie has is it's oversimplified. It's very simple, but it has so much heart and it has so much effort put into this film that I can't like. I'll give it an A+ for effort, B for execution because there are some CGI that doesn't look as good. Some characters are very flat. Well, they're not
Yep.
even flat. They're just predictable and they are
Yeah, just not
different tropes.
super fleshed out, but it serves the purpose. This movie gets the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
like there isn't any moment where it falls flat on its face and it fails in front of you. It just does what it needs to do. Perhaps not brilliantly, but well enough. A+ for effort is totally my verdict as well.
Because this movie, it does things, and when you see it doing the thing, you're like, okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, you're like cool movie.
Yeah,
cool.
I see why you're giving the villain this daughter thing.
Yeah,
because
I
you wanna
had that
show
throughout
he
the
is
movie.
a little bit of a human.
I think their first meeting was very well done. Her waking up in the tent talking to him. That was a very
Yeah.
good establishing moment because you're like, he's a bit scary, but maybe I can trust him. Nope. And I like it when the villain, the first interaction with the hero is not a full-on physical confrontation. Like they're trying to match wits at first.
But I would just like to say the island is huge, or it looks huge. It's weird that they kept meeting up with each other.
Yeah, I hope that I look at this kind of like Daniel Craig's Casino Royale, where hopefully it edges more towards what some of the sillier elements of the older series while retaining a generally more grounded approach. So I hope that we get a little bit more of the supernatural stuff, more of the ancient secret society stuff, more of the stuff that's a little bit more outlandish. I think another reason why this movie didn't go the supernatural route was that it wanted to downplay the direct comparisons to the Angelina Jolie movies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I didn't. I thought, okay, because it's based on the reboot,
Yeah.
it's a lot more serious in tone, but it never felt like it was trying to be not the Angelina Jolie version. It was just trying to be faithful to the games themselves.
I think what is interesting about that is the games were very much trying not to be the earlier games. So
Okay.
perhaps that was borne out in the movie not trying, coming off as not true. Because the thing about this is that it's, if you want to get disappointed in the world, there are many ways to do it. One of the ways you can do it is look at the Facebook comments under the promoted Warner Brothers post of people comparing, saying, how come this is not Angelina Jolie? People talking about her body, all sorts of... Yeah, so I think general audiences only think of Lara as Angelina Jolie. And, like, it's strange because it's like, if you can accept that there's a reboot of Batman, why can't you accept that there's a reboot of Lara Croft? Just like there have been many iterations of Batman, there have been several iterations of Tomb Raider in the games.
Well,
So-
yeah.
Yeah. So I think that part of it really is that video games are a much younger medium than comic books, than TV, than novels. So I think it will take time for mainstream audiences to, and not only that, but for filmmakers sort of tap into what makes stories work, to tap into what bridges the mediums, because I think that's a tricky thing. And really, why a big part of the involvement of video games is you controlling the character, and when you take that away, what are you left with? How do you turn that into something compelling? And that's that's a challenge that faces filmmakers adapting video games.
I just sometimes really wonder why is it that we can't get it right.
Yeah.
To be fair, like, I think they kind of got it right in this, but as
Yep.
a Tomb Raider fan yourself, you're not satisfied that they didn't get into what makes Tomb Raider fun, which is the mystical stuff.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that I think part of it was a fear that it would alienate audiences. Part of it was a fear that people wouldn't buy into it.
And
And
to be honest, like, after I saw Tomb Raider, I went to read and watch some reviews, and a lot of them said that there was this plot twist in the middle, or not in the middle, near the end of the film, that felt so video gamey. And can you imagine that's like with science. So if you put mystic in it, I don't think people would accept that more.
yeah, and I really liked the Angelina Jolie movie, the first one, because it's really silly escapism. It had very dramatic, huge set pieces. The tombs were elaborately designed. There were two main tombs, the one in Cambodia with the big jar, like the Buddha statue was holding this jar, and she had to ride this log and steer it to pierce the urn. And then the tomb at the end of the movie, which is in Siberia, which is this orrery, is a huge model of the solar system, all of the planets moving around on gears and arms, and she had to jump from one to the other. And in the middle, you've got the invasion of a house, which is done while she's doing the bungee ballet, while she's like jumping off the chandelier, and she's in the middle of her nightly sort of aerial acrobatic yoga routine, and she's interrupted by the paramilitary forces who are trying to steal the little piece of the clock there. So that kind of stuff, when I was younger, I thought was super exciting and fun. And then now that I'm older, I look at it as a little silly, but I still think of it as very fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have to watch those films. This sounds so weird.
yeah, like, I think the first movie is better than the second movie. I think the second movie doesn't feel as exciting. The second movie, I honestly think feels a lot slower. But the first movie, one of the complaints that people had was that Lara is kind of invulnerable. She's a superhuman character. Nothing phases her. Nothing scares her. And I think that can be applied to a lot of video game protagonists, especially from earlier on, where they're kind of overpowered and blank slates.
And also they are blank. Yeah, they are blank slates. That's the other problem.
So that's why I really like the approach to try and define Lara as a human being. and to try and
Yeah.
not define her by her physical attributes. And I think that the costume in the game, which they replicate very closely in the movie, I like it. I love Lara wearing this. And in Rise of the Tomb Raider, she spends the whole thing in like a parka. She is completely covered up. And I think they've moved quite a fair distance away from her being a sex symbol. But at the same time, she's still attractive. She still has that charm. It's just that it isn't derived solely from her physical attributes. And I think that that's a good direction to move movies starring, like genre movies starring women in.
I really can't wait for a discussion about video games and why they don't work as a movie medium, because I think that this is a great. Because I'm just so confused now, because I think that this works, but everyone else doesn't think that it works. I think that this is such a great stepping stone towards making a decent. No, this is a decent.
This is
film.
decent. Yeah, I think it's a stepping stone towards making a brilliant one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
sorry,
I get so annoyed that people just don't embrace it as a video game movie, and they use the video game part like, forget that you're a video game. It's like, well, it is a video game, and they should embrace what makes video games fun, which is all this adventure stuff, which is like puzzle solving, which is about big action set pieces, and I think it's so unfair that people use that as a knock against this film.
I think I have seen people complain that there wasn't enough of that. Like, that we only really get that towards the end.
Really? Because I can totally see the part where she was attacking the guy that tried to murder her. It's a quick time event that I would have died like 5 times, and then just put the controller down and be like, okay, I think I'm done.
So, like, her running around the camp and, like, in stealth mode with the bow and arrow, that feels very, very much like the game. There are a lot of points in the game where you do that.
The part where she was going down the river. That's from the game. And she's in the plane, and then the part where she's, like, trying to cut off her rope, and that's, like, pressing A multiple times, and then she has to run and jump and stuff. Yeah, that is a quick time event. Yeah, the whole parachute thing. Which, how nice of the Japanese people who own the plane to label the parachute with a drawing of a parachute. That was hilarious. Like, oh, it's a parachute. I can tell because it's a drawing of a parachute. The plane escape, one of my favorite parts of the movie. I thought that was so fun. That was straight from the game. It really, like, with the point when the thing starts creaking and she goes, really? I thought that was hilarious. That was really great. And I also really liked the bit where the henchman was laughing at the other henchman. It's like, you should have seen your face. And then the spike comes through. Dies from the spike, yeah.
Yeah, best.
Oh, I didn't like that part. That was a little bit too creepy.
I think, like, that felt like Indiana Jones. That felt like something you'd see in that kind of movie. At the same time, this movie is not depressing. It really tones down a lot of the very visceral violence. I think that what you see is enough. And her getting stick through the stomach and her, like, sewing up the wound, I think that was as extreme as it needed to get. Because there are people saying this movie needed to be R, and after watching this movie, I don't think so. I think it works as a PG-13.
Yeah, it's and I've seen Conan O'Brien play Tomb Raider, so I have seen what kind of terrible things that she could have.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so much blood in that game. It's a lot of blood, and also a lot of animal killing. So I think that's one of the criticisms against the series as a whole, is that she shoots Bengal tigers and she shoots dinosaurs, and just, like, all animals are trying to kill her. She shoots bats. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like, my favorite game, I'll go back to this a lot, Legend. I like Legend a lot because I think it's the first reboot in the series. So before this reboot, there was another reboot called Tomb Raider Legend. And that one was the shortest of the games. I think that's probably why I liked it, because as someone who really didn't play any video games at that point, it was a bit easier for me to go into it, although I still found the puzzles very challenging. Mm-hmm. And I liked the tomb design. The level design was really fun. The environments, there was a variation to them. Each of the environments felt authentic. It felt like, okay, this fits in Peru, this fits in Russia, this fits in Tokyo. And there was one city level. Tokyo was a city, so that felt like it broke up the monotony of her being underground in tombs all the time. And then another level was an abandoned, like, Russian research facility.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love Legend. Legend's great, man.
Sorry. Okay, so I think that's all for Tomb Raider. I will play the game. This game, this movie has inspired me to try the game again, and I'll probably give up after dying to a wolf 5 times, 10 times maybe. But I did get an Xbox controller, so I'll just link that to my computer, so at least I know how to play it. So what else is there to talk about? Oh, I found out that the next video game movie is Rampage.
Oh, yes. Yes. That totally slipped my mind because it has been not promoted at all. But it looks like fun.
It does it? Okay.
I think it looks like it knows what it is.
It doesn't. It's not. No, it really doesn't. Does it look like it knows what it is? Because it looks like it's trying to be serious when it's not supposed to be.
I think it looks self-aware. I think the biggest clue for me is that there's a bit in the trailer where the wolf flies away, and then The Rock goes, "Oh, of course the wolf flies."
Fun fact about this film. One of my instructors from my animation online school is actually the head of animation, I think.
Really?
In this film, yeah.
Oh, at which house?
It's the New Zealand Weta, I think.
Weta. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Weta does very cool creature stuff because they've done all of the King Kongs and the Godzillas. So yeah,
the apes.
That's right. Yes. So Weta is probably the monkey specialist out there.
Yep.
And this is a movie with a giant monkey in it, and also a giant lizard and a giant flying wolf. I'm curious. I don't know how good it'll be, but it honestly looks like fun.
I hope it is. I'm not gonna watch it. I think you are gonna watch it.
Yeah,
so,
I
you know what? No, we have to watch it because I want to talk about video game movies and why they don't work. And this will probably be. You know what? I think that this video game movie will be so not. It doesn't matter whether it's from a video game or not.
Yeah, because my understanding of the arcade game is that it has no story.
Yeah. No, but I mean, even something like Super Mario, we can talk about why it doesn't work. But I feel like this is just something generic, so there's nothing to talk about.
That's right, where it's not, I mean, the source material doesn't really affect it as much as something like Tomb Raider.
It's just meant to sell something.
Yeah, and it's a Dwayne Johnson movie. It's not a video game movie.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Skyscraper either. It's like, why do people just keep green lighting these things? What is it? It's just like, we'll put The Rock in anything and you'll green light it.
So what movie do you want to talk about next week?
If you can get to Pacific Rim, that would be fun.
Oh, Jet, why did you do this to me? Okay, you know what?
That's the big thing coming out.
Oh God. I really don't want to watch that. Okay, fine, I'll try.
No, you don't have to. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a regular thing because I'm so used to it not being a regular thing. But at the same time, there are a bunch of interesting movies this year that I would like to talk about.
There is one film, like we talked a lot about him when we talked about that what's that film called? The one that they were stuck in some place, the soldiers. Yes, John Krasinski.
John Krasinski, A Quiet Place. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I heard it's like getting so many good reviews.
It's interesting. They're finally letting him and Emily Blunt be an on-screen couple.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. Like, I love John Krasinski so much.
Yeah, because it also
kind of everything.
It kind of has a The Last of Us vibe as well.
Yeah.
It has like a post-apocalyptic, everything's been overgrown, everyone has lots of beards kind of look.
What do you think of Shazam? Zachary Levi in that Shazam costume.
I think we need to see studio photo shoots. Like, we need to see official pictures because I think it is a bit goofy looking. At the same time, so is Brie Larson in her Captain Marvel suit. So I think that it's not really fair to go off of just paparazzi photos taken on the street during production, because I think that's still a bit far away from what the final look will be like. However,
I felt there is one thing that I don't like about it. It's that Zachary Levi does not look buff enough to be Captain Marvel.
It is like a padded suit, so it does look like it does obviously look like he's wearing padding. But I'm sure he could build himself up to a respectable size, like a Chris Evans size. I wouldn't put it past him. So I don't know whether we will see that in the movie. Like I'm a bit surprised they've already started production. I thought that it was going to I didn't think it was going to film for a little while longer, but I adore Zachary Levi. I'm going to be very name droppy. He's the nicest person I've interviewed ever. It's the best experience I've had interviewing anyone. He was so chill, totally no airs, no complex, very honest, very friendly, and there were no like publicists hovering around. I felt like there wasn't any pressure. So, and I felt like he didn't hate being there talking to me. Like he wanted to be there and he wanted to talk to me. He didn't know who I was. So
what was he interviewed about?
I was there during like it was quite an interesting context. I was there just before Comic-Con, so he was setting up his own mini Comic-Con at HQ, which was across the way at the Children's Museum. So that year he was doing Heroes Reborn. And actually, Zachary Levi, if you're a fan of him, he is the host of all the behind-the-scenes making of Tomb Raider videos.
Oh, okay.
The game.
Yeah, I know he's a giant nerd when it comes to video games. He presented in the Game Awards this year, and he was not happy with EA at all. Let's put it that way.
And he loves Ocarina of Time. He talks about that all. Yeah, he talks about Zelda a lot. It's very endearing, actually. He's very cute.
Everyone hates Skyward Sword. I love that game to no end, and he's the only one that I know that loves it. So I'm very happy.
So you have that in common with Zachary Levi. Yeah, I'm glad he's getting this sort of a big superhero role, because if I'm not wrong, he was very close to doing Star-Lord, and then he was Fandral. Have you seen Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, I have.
Yes, then he just died in 2 seconds.
Oh, well, that's fine.
I was so angry with that movie for just killing the Warriors tree like they didn't mean anything. It was to demonstrate Hela's strength. That's the only reason they did that. I'm happy that Sif was somewhere doing her own thing, so she didn't get killed.
Okay, what else?
Okay, another thing, if I can go back to Tomb Raider, this is going to be a very name-droppy story, and actually very sad. I'm very sad about this story, but I want it memorialized on tape. Okay, so Joshua Simon, he's the radio DJ of Kiss 92, and I'm a guest on his show, so he is getting all of these junkets, getting to interview people, go all over the place, and it is really awesome. I'm very happy for him. I'm also very envious, and there should be a greeting card that expresses this sentiment. I'm very happy for you, but I'm also very envious and sad about myself.
I'll always give that to you, Jet. Always.
Sorry?
I'll always give that to you.
Thank you. So he got to go to LA to interview Alicia Vikander and Daniel Wu and Walton Goggins and the personal trainer Magnus Hitchback for Tomb Raider. So I heard he was going, and I said, can you please take along my custom action figure of Alicia Vikander and get her to hold it? So he walks into the thing. She's very excited. She holds it. He's not allowed to take any photos. They sit down. She says, this is my good luck charm. She puts it away. The guy hasn't started filming the interview.
Oh.
So she has kept it. It belongs to Alicia Vikander now. There's no evidence that she has this custom that I made.
Oh.
She has no social media, so there's no way for me to even attempt to ask for a photo of it. So this is a very sad story, and it sounds like an elaborate thing I made up to explain why I left the figure somewhere.
Okay.
But it's true.
At least she has it.
She has it. Yeah, I want her to put
that's
it.
Quite sweet.
I'm sure she had a wonderful reaction to it because she seems like the kind of person who would be very enthused by that. But her management was kind of being anal, and I think Josh was very apologetic about it. But it's totally an extra thing I asked of him, and I acknowledge that. Right now, he's in LA doing Ready Player One.
I mean, yes, good for him.
I had exactly the same reaction, but at the same time, I have had many opportunities I'm grateful for, and hopefully that's the direction I'm headed in. Hopefully Warner Brothers one day realizes I am a somebody and puts me on a plane somewhere, because so far I have not gone on any overseas junkets apart from that one time I went to Japan for War Machine.
I am never going to do that because I'm not a journalist. So, I hope things work out for you too as well.
Thank you. No,
I just want to meet my god, Mr. Aonuma. the producer of the Legend of Zelda series. That's all I want. And he's closer to me, that's the worst.
And Zac Efron.
No, Zac Efron is fine. I don't want to know who he really is in real life.
You don't want to rip off the veil. And
Yeah.
I can't wait for his serial killer movie. I hope he's good in it.
Yes, Ted Bundy, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what actors do whenever they want to be taken seriously. They play a serial killer.
Oh.
Yeah. Like Charlize Theron in Monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's all.
Yes. We
Okay.
have talked about Tomb Raider, which is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I'm very happy that I got to it. And I'm very happy that you like this movie. And
Thank you.
yeah, I think that in the context of it being an intermediate step of a stepping stone, like I'm very happy with how much it got right. I think I fully acknowledge that my dissatisfaction with it, my wanting more, comes from me knowing the source material, and that if I didn't, I probably would be very okay with what it is. So I don't hold that against the movie at all. I know why they had to streamline things, and I think that the adaptation is done better than a lot of adaptations I've seen. Though the things that they cut out, the things that they left in. But I want more, and I want a sequel, so I hope that happens.
Yep. And I want a sequel too because I love seeing Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft.
Oh, she's so great. I'm so
So-
happy she got the role. Yeah.
Yeah. So see you guys. I don't know when. I want to see Black Panther next week though, so I'm really excited for that.
We can talk about Black Panther if you want, instead of talking about Pacific Rim.
Do you remember anything about Black Panther?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. How many times have you seen it?
Twice.
Twice. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
enough. And I've seen a lot of memes, so it's very fresh in
Okay.
my memory from the memes.
The only the things that I know from the memes are Wakanda Forever.
Yes, that's their battle
And-
cry.
Yeah, and something about Shuri and Tom Holland. I don't know what that's about.
What? I don't know what that's about either, but yeah, we'll see.
Alright, so see you guys next week. 2 weeks
Bye-bye.
next time. I want to do the video game thing so badly.
We'll get around to that. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that too. See ya. Thanks for listening, whoever's out there. Bye.